So if you're sick of looking at JSON commands being written in a terminal, I have good news for you. We're about to install Kibana, which is a much prettier way of interacting with Elasticsearch. With Kibana, it's a web UI that just sits on top of the aggregation framework for Elasticsearch, and it can use Elasticsearch's aggregations under the hood to create beautiful charts and graphs like this. So instead of crafting JSON requests by hand, you can interactively create the aggregations that you want on the fields that are in your index and visualize them pretty much in any way you can imagine. It's very fun and very cool stuff. But before we can play with Kibana, first we have to install it. And just for reference here in the slides, here are the steps we're about to do. All you have to do is use apt-get to install it, since we've already installed the necessary package repositories way back when we first installed Elasticsearch. And then we just need to change the configuration for Kibana a little bit. There are a couple of settings that are specific to running Kibana on a virtual machine on a single host like we're doing here. After that, it's just a matter of reloading the service and enabling and starting it. And at that point forward, you can hit Kibana on port 5601 through a web browser, which we already opened up through VirtualBox earlier back when we first set up VirtualBox, way back in the first lectures. So let's go ahead and do this. Alright, so if you followed along with the earlier setup steps in this course, this should go pretty smoothly. We'll just say sudo apt-get install Kibana. And let it go do its thing. Alright, so far so good. We just need to change one little configuration setting here to get it to work properly on our virtual machine. So let's say sudo nano /etc/kibana/kibana.yml. That's the .yml. That's the default configuration file for Kibana. And we just need to find the server.host line here and change that from localhost to 0.0.0.0. Alright, that's just so that we can actually access this from outside of our virtual machine. Alright, Control-O to write that out, Enter, and Control-X. And now we just need to start up the service itself. Start with sudo /bin/systemcontrol daemon reload. And then sudo /bin/systemcontrol enable kibana.service. And finally, sudo /bin/systemcontrol start kibana.service. This will make sure that it starts up automatically when we restart our virtual machine. And it's off chugging away right now, starting off Kibana. It does take a few minutes for that to actually start up and be accessible. But after you've given it some time, we can just pull up a web browser. So let's pull over a web browser tab here. And that will be available on our local host, 127.0.0.1:5601 is the port name. Alright, so I've given things a good 5 minutes or so to spin up here, so I'm going to try and hit that. Again, 127.0.0.1:5601 is what you want to enter in your browser. And hey, it's working. Kibana is loading up in our browser. And cool. No, I don't want to give you information. But yeah, we have the Kibana, initial dashboard up here, and we can start playing with it in our next lecture. But this is awesome. We now have a web interface for actually querying the data in our Elasticsearch server remotely, potentially. So really user-friendly stuff. You can imagine anyone in an organization, being able to gain access to the data that's stored in your Elasticsearch cluster. And they don't necessarily have to be, highly technical to use this data at this point. So this is a very user-friendly tool aimed more at analysts than at engineers. So yeah, we got it up and running. So up next, let's start playing around with it.